Hey, Inebri-arts, before we get into the show today, I just wanted to talk to you about today's sponsor. So I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I asked her what the date was, and she said that time has no meaning and numbers aren't real, but that's not necessarily true as we're coming out of lockdown all over the place. And today's sponsor will help you with that. It's Vaer Watches. Today's episode is presented by Vaer. Vaer was founded with the goal of building an affordable, everyday wristwatch that blends tasteful design with extreme durability and functionality. Vaer returns a sense of dignity to affordable wristwatches and are built to last. Vaer is a true American watch company specializing in both quartz and automatic watches. Vaer is offering our listeners 15% off if you use the code PODGO15. That's PODGO15. Go to VaerWatches.com to learn more and get your new timepiece today. Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast. And, you know, with COVID being the way it is and we're locked down and we're not recording in person anymore, there has been some real silver linings to being able to reach out to people we wouldn't normally get to talk to. And I got to say, there's a lot of people who I become fans of because of meeting them on the show. But this is a person who I'm actually a fan prior to, and I'm very familiar with her work. Welcome to the show, Amber Nash.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I got to say, I'm very excited. I'm a huge Archer fan. So when this opportunity presented itself, I was really excited. A little nervous, actually, which is unusual for me.
We'll get to talking and you'll realize it's like everybody else.
Oh, sure. So I was just seeing that season 11 starts next month. When you first got this gig, was that even an inkling? Did you even think it was going to be as successful as it is?
No. And, the funny thing is like, I had worked with the guys that made Archer before on a show called Frisky Dingo, and I knew them because we were all Atlanta people. And I don't think I was supposed to get the job. Like, I'm pretty sure that they had gone through a couple people and asked some, like, other famous people, because everybody else on the show when they started it was a famous person. And then they were like, well, I guess we'll see if Amber wants to do it. And somehow I, like, wiggled my way and snuck in and got through. Like, one of the things I didn't realize is that when you're on a show, you also have to, like, it's not just the people making it that have to like you. It's also the network has to approve you. So there's just so many hoops to jump through that I just somehow got super lucky and was able to kind of wiggle my way into the show. So just getting on it was crazy. And then on top of that, I think we were all like, well, it's cool that we're making one season. Maybe we'll get to 2 seasons. And then it just kind of blew up in a way that nobody expected. So it's been such a crazy ride. And the fact that it's been 11 years already, I still feel like I haven't quite grasped what's happened.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's funny because I feel like in the first season, I mean, Pam was definitely prominent, but I feel like she has really come on as definitely one of the main characters. And she was kind of supporting in the first season. Was that, were the fans calling for that, or was it just kind of how it happened? Or
I think in the first season, like Pam, I think was created because they needed like somebody to be a punching bag. Like they needed somebody to be the butt of the joke, and it wasn't Cyril yet. Like I don't think they realized how good Cyril was going to be for that. And so I think that's what Pam was in the first season. So she's not that great of a character in the first season. And then I was actually recently, I went back and was looking at, somebody asked me what my favorite episode was. So I went to like the Archer wiki page and was like looking at all the different episodes. And I think the episode that really was like, oh, Pam is awesome was the one where she got kidnapped. And so that was season 2. They were supposed to be kidnapping Cheryl.
Oh, yeah. And isn't that the one where they ask for like a ransom and Miss Archer like laughs at it, and then she's like, well, how much would you pay? And they're like,
Yeah, so I feel like that was the first one that people were like, oh, this character's kind of cool. And then Adam Reed, who wrote the first 10 seasons, and was also the creator of the show, he, I think, started to realize, like, we also are friends. We knew each other before the show, and then we've become better friends over the years. But I think that he started to realize what that character was capable of and what I could do with the character too. And so he just kept giving me more and more opportunity to do different stuff. And the character just became bigger and bigger over the years. But I think it wasn't until season 2 that he even realized that was possible.
And after 11 seasons, like, how much of Amber is in Pam and how much Pam is in Amber? Like, how much, I mean, do you find yourself using kind of Pamisms? I know, like, me and my friends use phrasing, and I think every Archer fan uses phrasing, but...
Right. You know, the funny thing is my friend Megan was like, if you listen to Pam in the first season, she sounds more like Amber, but as seasons go on, the Pam voice becomes more prominent, so the character kind of really came into herself. And also, I feel like there's so many things about Pam that I think I have helped create, but then there's so many things about Pam that I wish I was, like, I wish I didn't give a shit like Pam didn't give a shit. Like, life would be so much more fun if you could just be like, fuck it, who cares? I can do anything I want. So there's times that I'm like, man, I wish, what would Pam do? Like, I wish I had the strength behind me of Pam Poovey. But as far as using, like, I feel like, if, like, here's a great example. Every year when we go to Comic-Con, they pass out T-shirts to the crowd, like new Archer T-shirts, and you can only get them at Comic-Con. And so everybody in the cast also gets one too. And I've gotten so many T-shirts over the years and swag, and it's like, I can't wear an Archer T-shirt around.
Yeah, it's weird wearing yourself. Yeah.
So I feel like I don't get to. I also can't use, like, Archer phrases because I feel so shitty doing it. So they're kind of unusable to me, unfortunately.
And was this always like a lifelong dream to be like a voice actress, or like how did you kind of end up there?
No, so I never really thought about being a voice actress. I didn't really know much about it. You know, like, you hear, like, radio commercials and, like, people that do, like, movie trailers and stuff, but I was like, I never really thought of it as a career path. But I came up through improv. And the guys I said that make Archer were making Frisky Dingo at the time for Adult Swim, which is in Atlanta. And the theater that I work at is also in Atlanta. And so when they first were making shows for Adult Swim, like, it was just 5 guys in, like, a shitty house in East Atlanta. And we were a scrappy little comedy theater. So Lucky Yates, who also is on Archer, he does the voice of
Krieger.
Yeah. Yep. He's also from Dad's Garage. And so I think that they, you know, we knew about them and they knew about us. And so that's how they found out about me, because they would come see shows. And so they had me audition for the show. But before I did Frisky Dingo, I did 2 seasons of Frisky Dingo. I did, like, a bunch of different characters because they didn't have any money, so they couldn't hire a bunch of actors.
Yeah.
But before I'd done that, the only thing I'd done voice-wise was a couple of, like, radio spots. So I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, I kind of learned on the job. So it wasn't really something that I planned to do, but I think that improv really kind of sets you up to be able to do voice work, because you don't have props, you don't have costumes, you just have your characterizations and your voice. And so I had been playing crazy different characters for years doing improv, and so that really helped me along the way to learn how to do character voices.
So is there a lot of improv in Archer? I feel like, well, I suppose the question is, which comes first, the voice recording or the animation?
Good question. So I kind of always assumed, because what you always see is, like, you know, you see, like, a big Hollywood star, like, and they've got the screen with all the animation that's done for the, you know, Pixar movie that they're doing voice work for, match it. That's not how we do it. We do all of our voice recording first, and then after that, I think they've probably already done storyboards before we record, but we don't see any of that. We just do our voice recording, and they animate everything after. And the reason they do it that way is because they want to, if something comes up in the recording or something gets improvised or they just find something, they want to be able to use it. And if it's already animated, they can't do that. So they don't, I mean, the scripts are so tight, and they've gone through so many note sessions that, like, there's not a lot of need for improvising, but it does happen. Or like Casey Willis is our director. He's also an executive producer, and he is an improviser. Like, he's a really funny guy. And I knew him doing improv before I ever started working on voice work. And so he'll be outside of the booth and I'll be in the booth, and we'll, if something needs a little something different, we'll kind of be going back and forth. So until we find the right thing. So there's improv in that way. But yeah, so it all happens, all the animation happens afterwards.
And when you record, are you like in the same room with the other actors, or is it kind of just each person individually?
No, we're all alone. The only show that I know of that records all together is Bob's Burgers. Mm-hmm. And so Bob's does a lot of improvising because they all get together and they're in a room all day recording. And so the problem with that is that it takes a lot longer and it costs a lot more money. Mm-hmm. So we don't do that, unfortunately. We're always by ourselves. So I'm always in the booth by myself. I never see anybody. Like, it was the second season before I met any of the other cast members. Like, I didn't even know who anybody was. But I do see Lucky. So like, I'll see the people that record in Atlanta, like at the studio, but we're not in the booth together. Yeah.
I remember when I first saw a picture of H. John Benjamin, and it was still, like, his voice was coming out, and his voice doesn't seem to match like what he looks like. And it was a really weird.
So funny. They did a thing, I think it was just for Comic-Con one year. It might have ended up on like a DVD, if anybody has those anymore, like of the season. Mm-hmm. And it was Archer had gotten into a terrible accident and he was in a coma, and he woke up and they were like slowly taking the bandages off of his head, like on a soap opera. Yeah. And then the character looked exactly like John Benjamin, and everybody was like, like trying not to barf. And then like they put him in one of Archer's suits, and it was like way too big for him. Like, he was wearing Dad's suit. It was so funny. It was really, really hilarious.
So when you've been to Comic-Cons, was that, I mean, I hear like a lot of stories where people like, that's where I first kind of felt famous. Did you have that kind of experience when you walked on a stage and, people
it's kind of both. Like, because nobody knew, especially in the beginning, and still now, like, nobody knows what I look like. So I walk around Comic-Con and nobody has any idea who I am. So you feel really not famous sometimes because people are like just treating you like anybody else. But
move it, lady.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember the first year I was there was the second season, so that was like 2011 maybe, and I still had like a flip phone, and this shitty kid, like, was like making fun of me walking by, and I was like, God damn it. But then when you do get called out on stage, and because nobody knew who I was, and they were like, and the voice of Pam Poovey, and everybody went bananas, like in a room full of thousands of people, that was definitely really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always tell people, because the people in, I live in Plymouth, and they kind of joke around. They're like, "Oh, you're famous," and I'm like, "I'm not." There's like 2 streets where I'm famous, and that's it. And we were at a Thanksgiving Day parade, and I had my kids there, and someone stopped me, and they're like, "Oh, I don't mean to interrupt." He's like, "I just want to say I'm a big fan. I follow you online," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, cool. And then he walked away. I turned to my kids. I'm like, "You heard that, right? That just happened."
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, just even one person is just a weird experience that you don't.
Weird. You always hope there's somebody there to witness it. So you're like, did you guys see that?
Yeah, that totally happened, and you're going to tell people. Yeah. So do you ever kind of get the itch to go back to improv?
I haven't stopped doing it. Yeah. So because
so you're still performing at that theater?
Yeah. So because I live in Atlanta, and my husband, Kevin Galise, was the artistic director of Dad's Garage Theater for like 10 years. So I was basically like the first lady of the theater. Yeah. So I've been, and lucky too, like I live half a mile, like a 10-minute walk from the theater. So I'm there every weekend, not now, obviously, because of the coronavirus. So we're shut down, but every weekend that I'm in town, I'm at the theater doing shows. And I think it's like, like stand-ups. I think that you've got to stay like nimble, and being in front of a live audience is the best teacher in the world, because they'll tell you very quickly if they think what you're doing is funny or not. Yeah. So it's like my first love. I never stopped doing it. I absolutely must do it.
What is it about it that it really kind of, piques your interest more than other things?
I think part of it is that I've been there for so long. So I started doing stuff at Dad's Garage, like just kind of peeking around and seeing what was up there in like 98. So I've been there a long time. So it's like my family. Like I met my husband there, and all my friends are there. And so it's a little bit of like a clubhouse. But then the other thing is it's a pretty big theater. It's really grown over the years. Like Dad's Garage is kind of like the Second City or the UCB of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And so we do a lot of cool stuff. We do a full season of improv. Like we do improv just about like every week of the year, actually. We don't take any time off. And then we do scripted shows throughout the year too. So the cool thing is like, as an artist, if I want to write a show, if I want to produce if I have any kind of crazy harebrained scheme about a stage show that I want to do, like I can do it there. So it's a real amazing place to just be a creative artist.
And since your husband is involved also, is that like, how does that working relationship work? Is that a plus where you can kind of bounce ideas off anytime, or is it kind of a negative where you're either more critical or, you know,
it can be both.
Trash is an idea and you're like, you're just mad because I forgot to put out the trash today or whatever.
Exactly. It can be both. And I think he's stepped down since, like just this year, he stepped down as the artistic director and a new person's taken the position. But I think that it's both, because he was an administrator, like he was an artistic director. So he was kind of more in the day-to-day office-y world of it. And I was able to just be a performer. So that was helpful. But the other cool thing is he's also a performer. And so we're able to literally tour all over the world, and it's just me and him. So we have a show we do together, and if we want to go on tour in Europe, we just go together and can do shows all over the world and all over Canada. He's from Canada, and so we do a lot of touring up there, and so it's really cool to be able to do it with your partner.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes it's hard, like if we're teaching, and I'm like, well, excuse me, like I wouldn't say that, you know, like so we can kind of, in the beginning, it was hard for us to learn how to teach well together.
Yeah.
It's like performing together and then being like business people together are two totally different mindsets. But it's really like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I really am happy that I get to be creative with my husband, and we, you know, it makes our lives more exciting. Like we have a really fun time at home, like just being both comedy people, you know.
I know I watch a streaming show with voice actors, and it's got Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey on it, and they're always talking about how sometimes at home they just constantly talk in different voices. Do you guys like improv stuff around the house, or just kind of roll into character for no apparent reason?
Yeah, like we don't have any children. We have 2 pets, and so we're constantly just being stupid. We're never like formally improvising, like doing a scene or anything like that. Yeah. But, you know, we sing stupid songs to our pets and to each other. And like, we're always just saying stupid things and trying to make each other laugh. So it's definitely fun around here, especially like right now when things are so hard and everybody's struggling. It's like, well, at least we're doing our best to have a fun time.
That's awesome. Because I've really heard, friends of mine who are couples kind of like on both sides of the coin, where some people are like, oh, this is so great, you know, we spend so much time apart, this has been, you know, really refreshing, and other people are like, I'm getting a divorce. So
oh, it's so terrible. But yeah, luckily we're on the other side of it.
That's awesome. So you teach improv. I mean, do you kind of use those same tried and true games, you know, like the Who's Line style games, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I mean, one of the great things the way that a teacher once described teaching improv, it's kind of like practicing a basketball game. Like you don't know how the basketball game is going to go when you're actually playing it, but you have to practice the kinds of things that could possibly happen in a basketball game in practice. And so that's kind of like what it's like teaching improv. And we are a theater sports theater. So theater sports is a Canadian type of improv that came from Calgary. Okay. And so it's like kind of a style of doing improv. It's very narrative. And so that's kind of the style that we teach. And we do that one show once a week, but then we do all kinds of stuff too. Like we do theater sports, but then we do soap operas and we do variety shows and we do short and long form improv. So we kind of teach all of it. I don't teach as much as I used to. I was the education director at Dad's Garage for years before Archer came along. And then I taught so much then that I kind of just stopped teaching because I was sick of it. And because I didn't have to, because I was on a TV show.
So when you say it's more of a narrative, is it So, like, it's one complete story, the whole...
It can be. So when we do short form, short form means that there's like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where it's like there'll be a scene that's like 3 minutes long, and that's one story, and then that's over, and then you move on to a new scene or a new story. So we do a lot of that, and that we try to do a lot of narrative-based stuff in those small scenes. But then also we do long form, and so a long form would be like one narrative that is for the whole show, so like a whole hour or hour and a half long show. And then sometimes we do our soap opera, we'll do a whole season that's set in like a location. Like a couple years ago, we did one that was set in a mall, and so that's like serial. So every week builds off of the last week's show. So it's lots. So you play the same character for several weeks, and it's all the same story.
I actually took a improv class one time. I found it was a lot of fun, but I found it kind of hard to judge where the funny was, because when it's in a class form, there's no audience to respond, like you said. How do you kind of figure out what's really funny when you're improvising in a class setting?
It's really hard. And one of the things we always say is like, we're not teaching people how to be funny. We're teaching people how to be good improvisers. And so there's things that you can kind of try to teach, like building tension and breaking it. Oftentimes that's a place where a laugh might come. Playing really strong characters, having emotional reactions. So these little things that you can build on that hopefully will make for moments of funny. And then, like I said before, I think the biggest teacher is an audience, because you'll be like gearing up for something that you're like about to drop that you think is going to be hilarious. And then the audience just like doesn't react. And you're like, well, I know that wasn't funny. And so it's hard because you want to make sure that you're keeping it fresh and you're not going back to the same well over and over again, because this one works. But sometimes you have to. So there's a lot to it. It's more about, what we try to do is like set ourselves up to tell really good stories. And when you get laughs, that's just a bonus on top.
So I kind of always felt like, Whose Line is kind of the most publicly known improv thing. And I always felt like there's a real friendly, let's be a dick to Ryan or Colin. Is that something that's normal where you become friends with these people, so you start to mess with them?
Absolutely. Like, all my friends are assholes, and it's because they're all from the theater. So when I first came up at Dad's Garage, I was the only lady that was like a main stage performer. And so I had like 12 older brothers that were just constantly giving me shit. And so one thing is that it gave me like a really thick skin, but also it's like, these assholes. So I do think there's a lot of that where you're like, I forget whose quote this is, but it's that comedy is a man in trouble. I think that's the quote, where it's just like, so the more you can put somebody, the more shit you can give somebody, and the more you can put somebody in danger, that's where comedy comes out of. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of that.
Well, it's like the America's Funniest Home Videos. The funniest ones are the guys, you're like, oh, he definitely got hurt from that. That's really funny. That's awesome. So how are you guys handling the shutdown? Are you trying to do live stream stuff, or? Yeah, so we've been really lucky that we were a big enough theater with really good management for a long time that we have like some cash reserve. So luckily we've been able, like the theater company isn't in trouble, and we've been able to, some of our performers, that was their main source of income. So we've been able to kind of help them out in ways too. But as far as what we're doing, we moved to Twitch, and so we've been doing shows on Twitch, which I didn't know about Twitch before the shutdown happened. But so it's at Dad's Garage ATL, and there's all different kinds of stuff on there. It's not what we do on stage, because most times it's people alone in their house doing different kinds of stuff, but there's all kinds of shows on there. Lucky and I actually did have a show. We've stopped doing it since, but Lucky does a lot of stuff on Twitch too. So that's pretty much what we've been doing to kind of keep our like muscles from atrophying. Doing shows online. I don't know where we would be if like we didn't have things like Zoom and
God, I know, like you think about like the Spanish flu in like 1918, and it's like, man, if we're complaining about how hard this is, imagine what it was like then, when there was no internet and your neighbor lived like 2 miles away. Like, good God.
And they had to use a flip phone and
exactly.
So what kind of things are you doing on Twitch? Is it more, so you said they're kind of like one-on-one things? Are they kind of improv-y type things? Are they more stand-up or?
Yeah, it's more like there's a show. The show that Lucky and I were doing was basically, it was called Couch Party, and it was just him and I and another guy named Mike Schatz that would just basically shit around and talk about whatever we wanted and sometimes do some improv. But then there's other shows that like, there's a performer named Whitney, and she does a show where she like voices all of her animals in her house, like it's a soap opera.
Like live animals or?
Yeah, like all of her pets.
Okay, yeah.
She's got a lot. She's got like 3 cats and 2 dogs. And then there's a lot of interview shows, or there's a lot of music stuff, like people that are improvising songs. So there's all different kinds of stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we're trying to do some live music. It's just trying to get people, even just like your friend who's doing the voicing of the animals. Is like on most days you'd probably be committed for that, but they're like,
Exactly.
It's lockdown. She's fine.
Totally.
And you guys have a new program coming up that's going to be following Archer, right? Archer After Dark?
Oh, we know that was last year.
Oh, that was last year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I thought that was coming up this year.
That's okay. Yeah, we did it last year. We did 3 episodes. We did like the premiere, the mid-season show, and then the last episode. And it was Lucky and I. It was super fun. We just did it for Facebook Live.
Oh, okay. I was trying to find like clips of it or something. I couldn't find any. Is it was like a Talking Dead kind of?
Yeah, totally like that. Like an after show. It was really fun.
And is that something that you guys are planning on doing this year? Or? No,
we were trying to get FX to greenlight it again, but they were like, no, those kinds of shows don't do very well for us. And we're like, okay, cool. That's just TV, you know?
Yeah. It's almost, have you thought about maybe just doing it on your, and I don't know what kind of contract type things there are, but like live streaming just on Twitch? And
yeah, I mean, we could. The problem is the show that we did was actually really great quality, and we just didn't have the budget. Like Lucky and I aren't going to throw a bunch of money into doing it on our own. So we could do something like that was, you know, just us without any budget or production value. It could be kind of fun because we both do we didn't last year or the year before, but Lucky and I both you know, like tweet live as the show's on, and so stuff like that's pretty fun. It's fun to engage with the fans, so anything we can do is fun.
Yeah, that's cool. What was it like at Comic-Con? I should say, has it happened? But I'm just kind of assuming it has because I've seen it. When you saw your first Pam cosplay?
Oh man, it was so awesome. So the very first one I saw was at Dragon Con, which is the big con that happens in Atlanta, and it was a man dressed as Pam.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was an incredible costume. It was absolutely amazing. And then since then, that was after the first season. So there wasn't a lot of Archer cosplayers.
Yeah.
But now in Atlanta every year, Dragon Con's huge. And I don't know how many attendees it gets every year, but every year there's the Archer meetup. And so it's all the Archer cosplayers get together like on the 7th floor of this hotel and take a bunch of pictures together. And Lucky and I usually try to go and like check it out, take pictures with people. And now there's like hundreds of Archer cosplayers. And so I have like my picture with like 30 Pams. It's so awesome to be like in a sea of Pams.
I remember I've gone to my fair share of Comic-Cons, and I think it was a Boston Comic-Con, and I saw a Pam, a Cheryl, and I think a Krieger walk by. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then every Comic-Con after that, every time I saw that same group, it's like they added another character. It's like then there was Archer, and then there was Krieger's holographic girlfriend, and the thing I really miss is because this year at Comic-Con I was hoping to see like a rock monster Pam cosplayer, because now there's so many different types of Pam. But because, we're not doing Comic-Con this year, hopefully somebody will be doing have all this time to make a great rock monster Pam while they're stuck at home. And if I remember the trailer correctly, you're back to Pam this season, right? Yeah,
because we're back to real time. So everybody's back to their regular people.
So I remember when, the in real life ISIS thing happened. I think wasn't that when they kind of did away with ISIS in the show?
Yeah, and I thought it was so funny the way that they dealt with it because it was like nobody mentioned it. It was never nobody ever said anything, but there was a scene going on. I think it was like Mallory and Cyril talking, and then in the background, two workers just come and take the sign off the wall and roll it out of the frame, and that was all anybody ever said of it. And then they just never talked about it again.
And I mean, to me, it's such a great show, and like it makes me think of like South Park because they're constantly pushing the limits, and I'm like, I don't know, how has this not gotten more grief? I mean,
I know the shit we get away with. I'm just like, oh my God, we can say that or we can do that. It's just like, I think it helps because it's animated, like you can get away with more, but still it's like so much more realistic looking than South Park. So sometimes there was like the sex scene with Lana and Archer, I think. And it was like so graphic. And Casey Willis, who I mentioned earlier, said that was like one of the first times they were like, yeah, maybe just like dial it back like 2%. But it was still like amazingly graphic.
Do you think it's because they came out of the gate that way, that it's kind of always been really edgy? So when people are startled by it, they're like, well, that's just the show that it is.
Yeah, I think so. And I think too, FX is like, it's the only network I've ever worked for. I mean, I worked for Adult Swim, but I didn't know them as well. And like, as far as I can tell, talking to other people that work with other networks, it's like FX gives their show creators so much license. Like the network isn't like super picky. They're just like, you guys know what you're doing. This is your vision. Like, make the best show you can. So we don't get a lot of pushback from the network as far as like content and stuff. And I think that Archer came out at a time that like, a lot of networks were trying to start to push the boundary of what they could actually get away with because like, you know, shows were blowing up on HBO. And so it's like, what can all these other networks do to kind of make their shows even better?
I definitely think that's a byproduct because, I mean, I'm trying to think, there was one show that I was watching. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they just flat out swear on the show.
Totally.
And they like that. And do you ever think that like Howard Stern used to say that he felt he was funnier on regular radio because he kind of had to work around those guidelines. Do you ever feel like those guidelines can be helpful to comedy?
It's a good question. I feel like one of the things I feel about being dirty, and this is something I learned doing stage work, but also a big thing that I think Archer has taught me, is that if you are going to be dirty, you've got to earn it. So, like, if you're just straight up dirty for no reason, it's like there's nothing to it. There's no substance there. But because Archer's such a smart show, and then all of a sudden it'll, like, you know, take a 90-degree turn and something super dirty will happen, I think that it gives us the opportunity to be dirty because we've earned it by being so smart. So I think that's part of it.
I think that's the real suspension of disbelief in that show, is that those morons can be as smart as they are.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, they've said things that I've had to look up, or, you know, I'll go back and I'll rewatch an episode and I'll be like, oh, I never picked up on that because I wasn't aware of that event in history or that.
And that's all Adam Reed. Like, he's such a crazy genius. Like, that's just like who he is as a person. That's all that stuff is what's in his brain.
Do you ever get to kind of give ideas for episodes or suggestions for Pam?
Not really. Like, the only time, because it's all, I think that Adam in the early seasons, he would have the whole season kind of mapped out in his head and what he wanted to do. So there wasn't a lot of he just didn't need it, you know, and nobody would even think to give him an idea for a show. But the only time I think I ever influenced anything was he used to call us before the seasons would start and be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. The network has said it's okay. So this is what's going on. Like, that's when we got
the lawyers have signed off on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, we got the call about Archer Vice. He was like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what's going on. And we were like, oh, shit. Okay, cool. And he told me that Pam was going to be addicted to cocaine that season. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then, I mean, she should probably get really skinny, right? Because, like, people that are doing a ton of cocaine, like, probably aren't eating.
Right.
And so he was like, okay. And then I went into the office a couple weeks later to, like, pick something up. And the office is just, like, a big room with like tons of computers and like people like working away, drawing stuff on their computers. And I walked by somebody's desk and they were working on Pam, and she was super skinny, but her boobs were the same size. I was like, whoa!
That's probably one of my favorite seasons. It's so good.
Me too. And it was so like, people either loved it or hated it because they were like, I want things to be the same and I don't want anything to change. And so those were the people that hated the last 3 seasons too.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's so much fun to change it up. Like we can, so why not?
Right. And it keeps it fresh, and you're not going to do the same jokes over and over. I mean, how many times can you shoot Brett?
Right, exactly.
So what are your kind of plans for the future? I mean, do you want to do more voice acting? Do you want to kind of, I mean, obviously you want to continue to do improv, but do you want to take that to bigger levels, or like what's...
Yeah, so I mean, I'm always, just like every other actor, I'm constantly auditioning for stuff, and like even voice work. Like when I thought that once Archer started, I was just gonna like lean back and the phone was gonna start ringing off the hook, right? And it was like, no, you still have to audition all the time and still never get roles. So it's just like every other actor. So I'm constantly auditioning for stuff. I will always do voice work if people will give it to me, because it is literally the best work in the world. Because it's so awesome. You don't have to memorize lines. You don't have to do hair and makeup. You just like sit in your pajamas in your closet and record lines. It's the best. So I will always do that. And then I'll always do improv because it's super fun, but I want to start doing more on camera work. Mm-hmm. And we've actually, my husband and I and 2 other friends of ours have started a company, and we made a short film, we made a web series. And so we're doing work like that. And we're working on, before the coronavirus happened, we were planning on shooting a feature this year, like a Christmas movie, but that's going to be put on hold until next year. So we're super bummed that we can't make it this year, but and it's going to have Colin Mockery in it, who's, you know.
Oh, nice. I was actually trying to get him for the show, and he was coming to Plymouth Memorial Hall to perform. So I'm like, oh, sweet. should be able to, totally. You know, and the show was supposed to be in April. So, you know.
That's too bad. Yeah, Colin's a really good friend of ours. And so he's done a lot of stuff with us. And so the film is going to be basically a like struggling comedian goes home for Christmas. Her family is a shit show. So Colin would play my dad. I'd be the struggling comedian. And I have a brother with special needs. And so this whole kind of family dynamic that's going on around the holidays, it's called How to Ruin the Holidays. So we can't wait. It's going to be such a wonderful movie.
So it's not a Hallmark movie?
No, but I do love a good Hallmark Christmas movie.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, see, I think the best Christmas movies are the ones that are kind of that dysfunctional family, like National Lampoon's is like the best Christmas movie.
And that's what our Christmas movie is going to be like, is a little bit more like Bad Santa.
Yeah.
But we do, at the theater, we do an improvised Hallmark Christmas movie, and it's so much fun because we have a guy that lives in Atlanta that actually writes Hallmark movies. That's his job. So he writes Hallmark Christmas movies, and he will direct us, and we improvise scenes that would happen in a Hallmark Christmas movie. It's so much fun.
Do you try to remove innuendo, or do you try to insert innuendo?
It's kind of both, like, because we're obviously poking fun at how like perfectly bright and cheesy the world is.
Yeah.
But we'll like, the improvisers will kind of like get out of line, and then the narrator will have to pull us back in and be like, that would never happen in a Hallmark. Yeah. That's
awesome. So how did you get into improv in the first place? Did you go to theater school, or?
No, I wanted to go to theater school, but my parents were like, no, that's stupid. So I got a degree in psychology. But I had always, like, I was in drama club when I was in high school, and I was in high school plays, and I did some improv actually in high school. That's where I was first like kind of exposed to it. And then when I was in college, I was studying biology. I thought I was going to get a degree in biology, but then I realized that I was entirely not smart enough to do that. And I was looking for like an outlet creatively, and a friend of mine took me to an improv show, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And so I started taking classes, and then it just never stopped doing it.
What kind of, I guess, tools is the right word, does a good improv person need? I feel like you almost need to be able to recall weird and interesting facts and scenarios out of your brain. So do you like watch documentaries to find out weird things, or like how do you build that library?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that one of my favorite things in really good improv is improvisers that are really specific. And the way you be really specific is to have really strong opinions about stuff and information about the world. And so I love to improvise that way. So I do watch a lot of documentaries, and I watch a lot of news, and I just try to take in a lot of information, but also the information that I know is not necessarily the information that the person that's on stage with me knows. Because a lot of guys in improv are like guys that go to Comic-Cons. They're like super pop culture nerds. And I'm like, I don't know what half the shit you're talking about is. And so that can also create some comedy. So yeah, I really like being super specific. And there's also, you have to kind of keep everything in your head that's happened so far in a show so that you can go back, we call it a callback, and pick up something from previously, and the audience goes bananas because it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they remembered that. So yeah, it takes a little bit of training your brain to kind of hold all that information in, while also being able to completely be in the moment and react and not be planning and just listening to your scene partner. So collaboration is a super big part of it too.
And does that just come from the practice, like doing the game or
it
games
comes
or rehearsal or whatever?
Yeah, it comes from doing it. And then having a chemistry too, like you can jump on stage with somebody that you've never played with before. You guys can probably do something pretty awesome. But if you've been performing with somebody for a really long time and you kind of know how they are and you can kind of anticipate what they might do, there's also a lot in that. That's why Kevin, my husband, and I like love to improvise together, because it's like our brains are kind of on the same track more than two people that don't know each other would be.
So you say you watch a lot of documentaries. I'm a documentary fan myself. Are you watching anything right now that you'd recommend?
Well, I like to watch a lot of true crime shows.
Everybody loves true crime now. It's like the hottest thing going.
There's so this is a series. It's kind of cheesy and kind of wonderful at the same time. It's called The Unexplained. It's hosted by William Shatner.
Okay.
It's great. And every episode is like a different topic. So like one episode was like the unexplained world of animals, and like what are the things about animals that we don't understand as humans, and like they did an alien show, and then they just did one about people that like are imposters. So it's a little bit more of like a bite-sized news magazine type of documentary.
And is it Shatner at his Shatneriest?
Oh my God, he's so great. That's what makes the show kind of awesome and kind of terrible at the same time. You're like, this is just perfection. It's William Shatner at his best.
Did you catch any of the Unsolved Mysteries new episodes on
Netflix? Yeah, I watched all of them.
I was a little disappointed there weren't more. I was like,
no, me too. And they were so good. Like I was like, these are way better than the ones I remember as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the show because I went to high school with a kid that was in one of the reenactments, so that was kind of like a big deal. But the one show that I would die to see come back is Ripley's Believe It or Not. I mean, that show growing up was like a huge influence on me.
Yeah, I loved it too. And now we just have those terrible museums in, tourist cities.
Yeah, but I've been there. I mean, I'd still go.
Totally, me too.
Yeah. Don't try to... Have you been?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, don't try to roll your tongue in the mirror. Because I had heard that story going in, and I was with my ex-wife at the time, and so she's doing it, and she's like, aren't you going to try? I'm like, nope, I'm good.
So funny.
So, can you give us any teasers about Pam this coming season?
Well, I'll say that, let's see, what can I say? So we know that Archer's woken up and he's back in the real world. And one of the great things is, I think a lot of the comedy this season comes from Archer thinking he's just going to go back to life as it was, but It's been 3 years and the world's kind of moved on without him. And he's been in a coma for 3 years, so he's not like physically capable in the same way that he used to be. And that's really pissing him off. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people just being like, dude, you can't, but the great news is Pam is always on his side. Like Pam's kind of always there for Archer.
Pam is kind of like Archer's best friend.
I know. That was another thing that happened in season 5. That's another reason why I love season 5 is when they finally admitted that they're each other's best friends.
Yeah.
Just because nobody else loves them. They're so terrible. So there's a lot of that. That's pretty much all I can give away. And there's some really great guest stars that are coming out this season too. We always have so many great guest stars that I never get to meet, by the way, but it's super awesome they're on the show.
And it's always one of those, like, I'll hear a voice and I'll be like, I have to look up this person because I know that voice and I can't place who it is.
Totally.
Do you ever get the person be like, where have you sound super familiar? Do you ever get that kind of?
Yeah, like I'll get it at the theater because people come see me in a show and they'll be like, I thought, like there was a guy one time that was he was watching the show with his wife and I think it was an improv show. And he was like, I can't recognize his voice and I can't figure it out. And so during the show, he started Googling it, like trying to figure out who I was. And then I think he went to the Dad's Garage website and saw my bio and was like, oh my God. And so then he was like talking to his wife about it and then came up to me at intermission. And I was like, yep. So that happens for sure.
I know I've heard it from musicians and whatnot about people's smartphones. Is that an annoyance in improv? Like, do you have people trying to film the show or just not paying attention?
Totally. And the worst thing is that because we're on stage and there's lights pointing at us and everybody in the audience is in darkness except for their stupid phone is lighting up their face. And you're like, come on, I can see you. Like people think that we can't see people in the audience and they think we can't hear them talking. So audience numbers can be terrible, especially because we're a comedy theater and we get a lot of young people that aren't like theater people, which is part of why it's awesome. Yeah. But it's also like people don't know how to act in public anymore. So it's like this isn't television. Like this isn't a movie. We're humans. We see you. We hear you. Like have a little respect. But for the most part, people are great.
Now, a stand-up comedian can kind of call them out and shoot down hecklers. Like, how do you address that in an improv situation?
We do that too. Like we have scripted shows, as I mentioned before. So in a scripted show, it wouldn't be that easy to do. But in improv, like lots of times the show will have a host. And so the host can be like, hey, you quit being an asshole. Or there's been plenty of times that I've called people out from the stage, but you just want to make sure, like if you're in a scene, and if the person's being really terrible and you have to break out of the scene to like call somebody out, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of downtime where you can kind of do that to people if it's necessary. Or, like people that are working the front of house can come and like throw people out too if it's necessary, if people get too rowdy.
Is the theater life in Georgia that prominent? Like
yeah,
I've never been to Atlanta.
Yeah, it's not the hugest theater city in the world. Like it's not New York, but there is a lot of there's some big theaters that do like big plays, that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of like smaller indie theaters too that do cool like experimental stuff, and there's a decent amount of comedy theaters and there's a decent amount of improv theaters because the city's pretty big. I mean, we've got a 6 million person population, so there's lots of cool stuff going on. And the cool thing about Atlanta is I think people don't think this about Atlanta. They don't think about Atlanta being like a really cool city like Portland or Austin or something, but Atlanta's got an incredibly cool art scene and it's just getting bigger and better. So there's always some kind of weird thing happening that you can go check out in the city.
Oh, it sounds cool. I remember I used to work for a big box retailer whose corporate office was down there. And they always talked about sending supervisors down for training. And I was in this weird position where my position when I started had just launched and there was no training. And by the time there was training, I've been doing it for so long, they're like, we're not sending you.
Oh, no! And
I would always October start to kind of like gripe and complain, be like, you guys need to send me for training because I didn't want to go to Atlanta in the middle of the summer. So I was always trying to get down there in the winter.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's what we always tell people. Like, if you're going to come to Atlanta, do not come between May and September. But the rest of the year is awesome, but the summer is terrible.
Well, Amber, this was amazing. I want to say thank you for taking the time to talk to us. It was a real honor.
Like
I said, I'm a huge fan. So this was a lot of fun for me.
Awesome.
And people can check out Archer on FX September 16th.
I think that's right. I've got my calendar.
That sounds rightish.
September 16th is right on
hot
FXX.
Damn. And where can they go to find out about Dad's Garage?
They can go to dadsgarage.com. We also have a YouTube channel that's called Dad's Garage. You can see us on Twitch at Dad's Garage ATL. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Amber C. Nash. And I think that's everything.
That's awesome. And when things go, quote unquote, back to normal, are you guys looking to do you and your husband looking to do another tour?
Yes, we can't wait to get in front of a live audience. So yeah, we're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. We don't know what yet, but hopefully we'll be around doing something, or a con or anything.
Awesome. Well, if you head up this way, we'll definitely make a point to come check it out.
Cool.
Consider coming to Plymouth. We have several theaters and performing arts centers. So
great. I'm in.
Cool. And we got some history stuff. The Mayflower's back. Just got back Monday.
Great.
Yeah, again, this was a pleasure. I want to say thank you to you, and thank you to our listeners for listening, and we'll see you guys again next week. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art, except for Instagram, we're at Inebri-art6. You can email us with your questions, complaints, and whatnot at Inebri-art@yahoo.com. And if you're looking for more podcasts, you can check out the other podcasts on our network, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror, and, of course, Bar Talk, Old Colony, and Inebri-art Podcast, the original. So check those out and subscribe and comment so we can reach more people, and thanks for listening.